Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Ian. Welcome back to the channel, Ian the Reader. We're back with the results video for Jake and Stacey Pick My TBR. And here are Jake and Stacey. We'll go ahead and let y'all announce your channels again, even though I'm sure people have already watched part one. So go ahead.
Sure. Hey, I'm Stacey. I'm the chapter Conundrum.
And my name is Jake, and I am the Bookish drummer.
Yes, they're both fantastic. Go subscribe to their channels if you haven't already. They are linked in the description. But if you have not already watched part one, I do encourage you to go ahead and do that. I'll link that down below. About a month ago, maybe less, I asked Jake and Stacey both to pick 3 books for me to read. And we're calling this like a TBR contest. Where they are both trying to pick books for me that they think I'll enjoy, and we're going to do an average score of each of their books, and whoever has the higher score wins. So I have now read all 6 of their books, and we have a winner. There is no tie this time. We talked about that. If there was a tie, then we would go ahead and do a tiebreaker. But no, one of you is ahead by about 0.5. So it's not a huge win, but
Okay.
there is a clear winner. So I'm very excited. You guys feeling confident? How y'all feeling?
I'm feeling very confident.
I'm feeling like a winner. The thing with my picks is they were all very different from each other, so I'm hoping you were in the mood for them all.
I guess we'll see. Yeah. So just to, if you don't want to go back and watch part one, to tell you the books that they each picked for me. Stacey's picks were Ogres by Adrian Tchaikovsky, The Passengers by John Mars, and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And then Jake's picks for me were I Am Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells, Notes from the Midnight Driver by Jordan Sonnenblick, and Firestarter by Stephen King. So all very good picks, all very good choices for me. I've read most of these authors, and the ones that I hadn't, I'd been wanting to read. So I was very excited about both of y'all's picks there. I will say there was not a single one of these picks where I was like, I guess I have to read that now. I was very excited about all of them. Very clearly in the video, I was giddy with each announcement. So, yeah, it was a good time. And first of all, I want to say thank you both so much for humoring me and participating in this video. It's been a lot of fun for me. And yeah, I'm excited to unveil the winner.
Thanks for letting us force you into our favorites.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for us.
Anytime.
To know how you felt.
Yeah, I will say I enjoyed most of them.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Most of them. Yeah. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So how we're going to do this is we're going to go back and forth, revealing the scores for one of you and then the other until all of the scores are revealed. Either that, or maybe I should just tell you. No, I'll tell you. Yeah, okay. I was thinking I would not reveal my scores until after I talked about all of them, but I guess we'll go ahead and just reveal them one by one. All right, cool. So we're going to start with Stacey's first pick that I read, and that was Ogres. That was the first book that I read in July. Yeah, so this book was interesting. It was very interesting. And I appreciate that you had me kind of go in blind, because it definitely went in some directions I didn't anticipate. And there were definitely some like reveals throughout. It was a fun little fantasy in that like there were, I mean, is it fantasy or is it sci-fi? I don't know what it is.
More sci-fi just because of the dystopian elements.
Right. Okay. So yeah, it's more sci-fi. It's just with the title Ogres, you kind of immediately think like fantasy. So that's interesting as well. But yeah, no, I liked the narration as well, how it's like kind of in second person.
Okay.
Kind of. I won't reveal anything more about that for those who are watching who haven't read it. But yeah, I thought that the reveals were pretty interesting. I thought that overall the narration was pretty gripping. And it was definitely one that I wasn't really sure where the story was going. And then it just kind of kept going in places I wasn't expecting. And then we get to the end, and I won't reveal anything, but the end worked for me. So overall, I don't really have too many, if anything. I kind of wish it was a little bit longer. I was really enjoying myself. So it was only like 4 hours on audio, I think. So I will say I had a really good time with it. And I'm giving Ogres by Adrian Tchaikovsky a 4.25.
That's pretty good. I'm happy with that.
4.25, yeah. All right. Jake, your read. Your first one that I read was I Am Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells. And this one was interesting because we talked about this. We had just read I Hunt Killers by Barry Lyga the month beforehand, and it's very similar in its ideas. It's basically a young character, teenager who has certain tendencies that lend themselves towards sociopathy, I guess, and being a serial killer, possibly. And they kind of have these tendencies that they have to resist. So I was a little bit nervous going into this that I would feel a little bit like burnt out on the idea, I guess. But that was not the case. I actually had a really, really good time with this. I very quickly got immersed in it. I liked the main character, I will say, of this more than I liked the main character of I Hunt Killers. I like the tone a lot more in this one as well. I told you, I messaged you that I was surprised it was YA, but you said that the author doesn't really pitch it as YA. It's more like adult, and I agree with that. It definitely is a bit darker in tone. The main character doesn't feel like a teenager, while with I Hunt Killers, he definitely does. And so I liked that a lot. And I don't want to reveal anything again for people who might want to read this, but there was a certain angle to the story that I did not see coming that I really, really liked. Yeah, I could see some people not liking it maybe, but I really liked it. And I will say, I don't think any of the other books are series, okay? But I was very tempted to just go ahead and pick up book 2, but I knew that if I did pick up book 2, you'd be like, he liked it. So I am now free to read book 2. But I Am Not a Serial Killer was excellent. It was very my taste. So very good job, very good pick with that. And I'm hopeful that the rest of the series continues. I think my only complaint, I had one like tiny little nitpick, but even now I can't even remember what it was. So yeah, I really like this one. I'm Not a Serial Killer. I gave 4.5. So slightly ahead of Ogres. I liked it slightly more. Okay. How are we feeling? Still feeling good? I don't know how y'all felt about like which ones you thought would be my favorites or not, but
I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I will say, when you get to Mr. Monster book 2, it's even better than book 1, I think.
okay.
Yeah, that's a lot
That's
of people
good.
in that trilogy.
It's my favorite
Yeah.
of the books.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I was looking into it, so it was originally a trilogy, and then he continued it later.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, all right. Well, I'll definitely be reading at least the trilogy. Okay. Next up. So the second book that I read for Stacey's picks was The Passengers by John Mars, which was also really interesting. This is, of all of them, I think, maybe not, but at least of your pick, Stacey, the one that I was most keen on, and the one that I had already been kind of wanting to read. Like, if you hadn't picked it for me, I probably would have read it this year. The other ones I probably wouldn't have. So good choice there. I really like this one as well. I'll go ahead and just say that. I liked this more than I liked the one by John Mars, which I did like. Yeah, but I liked a couple things about it that I didn't anticipate. So the whole premise is that there are self-driving cars, and 8 people, I think, are trapped inside and set on a collision course, and the public has to decide who lives and who dies. I totally forgot about the who lives and who dies part, like that the public decided. I thought that was really interesting. I really loved the way the story kind of did all the different perspectives, where you kind of had very different opinions about everybody throughout the story. You're like, because you kind of put yourself in the perspective of like, okay, if I had to choose who would die, as terrible as it is, you're kind of thinking it, like who you want to live, who you want to not live. The author did a really good job of kind of like taking you through the whole experience that the people went through, of like, oh, I really like this person, and then you find out something about them and you're like, never mind, I really don't like this person. And like just the way that we only get a certain amount of a perspective on people. I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, I really dug it. I thought I was going to give it 5 until the final 20%. So there's a decision that's made where there's a time jump, and I wasn't as into the time jump portion. And there was one reveal in that I was kind of like, I don't know about that. So all of the main story part, I was obsessed with. I was super into it. The final bit docked a half a star. So
Okay.
overall, I gave it a 4.5. So
That's the same as me.
Yeah, he didn't love the ending either. I did, but
yeah, I think I could see going either way. I think I just had certain expectations of how the story was going to go, and then like I realized like we were kind of getting towards the end of a certain part. And I was like, I still have like 4 hours left. What is going on? So, yeah, but I still really enjoyed it, and it makes me very eager to pick up another John Mars book. So, and I did like the way there were like certain connections to the one as well. But I really do wish he would advertise it as that, like almost as like a series of standalones that should be read in a certain order, because it really is kind of spoilery. So publication order is definitely the way to go for his books.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. So
yeah, he gives like no context spoilers, so if you weren't really expecting it, you may not retain it. But still,
Right.
like somebody who remembers details of books you read, I would definitely recommend publication order.
100%. Yeah, I definitely agree. So, but it was really good. So yeah, 4.5. Awesome. All right, time for Jake's second book. Yes. The second book I read for Jake was Notes from the Midnight Driver by Jordan Sonnenblick, which this one was interesting because I'd heard about it a long time ago, but it wasn't like fully on my radar. But I've read a couple books by him, so I might have gotten to it eventually. But yeah, I don't know what I expected with this. It was like Jordan Sonnenblick is a middle grade author for those who haven't read him, but he has an interesting tone for his books where he is very funny at moments, and then all of a sudden he'll like break your heart another second. And I really like that about his books. And so that's kind of what I was hoping for with this. And I really enjoy the main character, and I like the general setup of he gets into trouble and has to spend time with this old man. And I liked their relationship. I think that this book suffered slightly from being middle grade. I almost wish it was longer. We got more from his relationship with the old man. We delved a little bit more into everything going on with his parents. It almost felt like Jordan Sonnenblick had like a lot of really good ideas he wanted to put in this book, but then like it was so short that he had to kind of just like move through it really quickly. And so I enjoyed it and I had a good time with it. At the end of it, I was kind of left wanting a little bit more. That was the only thing. So I will say I like Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie more. But I still did enjoy myself with this, and it kind of affirmed for me that Jordan Sonnenblick isn't like a one-trick pony of like, I like those books, but I'm not really going to read any more of his other ones. I liked this quite a bit, so I could definitely see myself coming back to his books and having a good time with them. So, but that's really it. Like no other like major complaints. Like plot wise, I didn't have any complaints. I liked the subtle tie-ins to Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie as well. So that was cool. It that kind of similarly, it's almost a little spoilery for that as well, but mildly. So I enjoyed myself with that. Yeah. So other than like the fact that I just wanted a little bit more, everything that was there I liked. So because I don't have any like serious complaints about it, I went ahead and gave Notes from the Midnight Driver 4 stars. So solid. Yeah. So if we're keeping up here, Ogres has a 4.25, Passengers has a 4.5, and then I Am Not a Serial Killer has a 4.5, and Notes from the Midnight Driver has a 4.25. So we're pretty close here.
You said 4.
Wait.
Oh, I meant 4. Yeah, sorry.
Wait a minute.
Sorry.
4. So Jake is currently 0.25 behind.
Yeah.
But the final books that I read for each of you were the ones that I had predicted to be 5 stars. So those were The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Firestarter. So let's jump into it. So I did finish Evelyn Hugo last, but since we're going back and forth, we'll go ahead and talk about Evelyn Hugo next. So I listened to all of this in about 12 hours of life.
So you wanted to binge it because you loved it.
I did binge it because I was very invested and very engaged. So that's one thing I'll say about this. The way that this story is structured and written, it just keeps you kind of like wanting more. Like the fact that like, there are 7 husbands and you kind of want to see like, okay, why does she get into this marriage? Why does she get into that marriage? How does this one crumble? It's very addicting. So I really like that. I also liked that Evelyn was not like a totally cool, awesome person. Like she's very honest. It doesn't paint her in the best light. You see her being selfish. You see her being cruel at times. You see her being willing to like sacrifice anything and anyone to make sure that she gets to where she wants to be. And that is a risky thing for an author to do, to do something like that, to make their character not always likable. So I do appreciate the way that Taylor Jenkins Reid did that. I had some complaints. So I know the book was about Evelyn, but I didn't get enough of the narrator to feel like it made sense to be told the way it was. Like I liked Evelyn a lot, but Monique, I think was her name. We get like a little bit of her story, and I know it's not about her, but the way that it kept going back to her, anytime it was on her stuff, I just didn't really care. I was like, all right, girl, let's get back to Evelyn. Come on. So I was a little frustrated with that. And I guess like the way that I felt like the story in some ways lacked a climax almost. Like I kind of see where the climax is. There's a certain accident that takes place in the story that is kind of the climax. But at the same time, I just maybe I was expecting a little bit more, because the whole time Evelyn's talking about like, by the end of this, you're gonna hate my guts, man. And I was like, what did she do? And then she did it, and I didn't even realize the thing she was talking about that she did happened until after, and she's talking about it. I'm like, oh wait, that was a bad thing you did. Maybe I was just numb to the fact that she did terrible things. But when it happened, I was like, oh okay. And then there's kind of the reveal of like why she picked this person. And I didn't put that together. I should have, but I didn't, because the whole time I was like, why the heck did you pick this random woman to write your book? And the reveal of it, I will say that did work for me. And then the ending itself, like I have somewhat mixed emotions on. I guess like I expected a little bit more of a conversation between her and Evelyn at the end.
Okay.
But I still liked it quite a bit. I really liked Evelyn's character. I really liked her friend. Yeah, I had a good time with it. Like that's the thing I will say about this book. I was very invested, and I couldn't stop listening to it. So I had complaints, but I had a good time. Overall, I gave Evelyn Hugo a 4-star.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. Stacey scores a 4.25 collectively. 4.25, 4.5, and a 4.
Okay.
Now, Jake, your last book, Firestarter by Stephen King. Stephen King is one of my favorite authors. He's my most read author. I've read about 45 of his books. So picking a Stephen King was a safe choice. Now, was picking Firestarter by Stephen King the right choice? That's the question. That is the question. Okay, so this book is kind of interesting because it went, again, like this kind of went a lot of places I didn't expect, in that I kind of expected the story to continue on in a certain way, and about the halfway point we changed settings dramatically. Like the first half they're kind of like on the run, and then they're suddenly not, and we get to this point of like there's some separation going on, and we get a lot of each of their own stuff going on. And when that happened, when they got separated, I stopped caring, unfortunately. So the first half of this book, I was totally in. I was like, they're on the run. This is cool. I'm liking this. She's got powers. She's got his little mind push thing. They met some old people on a farm. And then they get to the second half, and I'm just like, all right. So I really, really wanted to like this one, and I had the highest hopes for this one, but I was really bored half the time, and it hurts. I'm so sorry, Jake. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to be too mean about it, but I was like,
It's such a King thing to do too, to give you a premise and then get you into it and then switch tack.
yeah.
He does that a lot.
I liked the fire powers. I liked the setup. I liked how they got their abilities. And the whole part where like everything that happened with his wife and everything, I was like, oh snap, these people are serious. And then like I also I think the book struggled a little bit with its lack of a strong villain. So like there's kind of this overall like corporation that is the villain, and then there's like one big guy there who is the bigger villain, I guess. But he just, because there's like, it starts out of like, oh, all these people are after them and stuff. I didn't grip the villain very quickly, and then when I did realize who it was, I was like, all right, what do you have to offer here, man? So so I liked it at times. Like I said, I really liked the first half. If the first half had been like most of the book, and I think I would have really liked it a lot. But that's really like the second act is when they get there. And then it goes from there. So Firestarter was not my favorite, unfortunately. I gave Firestarter 3 stars. So, so Jake, your average was a 3.83 with a 4.5, a 4, and a 3. And Stacey, your average was a 4.25 with a 4.5, 4.25, and a 4. So Stacey's the winner.
The book that I thought would be the safest pick.
I know, that's the crazy part. Like as I was reading, I was like, Jake should have picked different seasons.
Dang it. Dang it.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Like, my 2 favorites were, my 3 favorites were Passengers, Ogres, and I'm Not a Serial Killer. And of those, I'm Not a Serial Killer and Ogres were first time reads for me as far as authors go. I'd never read an Adrian Tchaikovsky. I'd never read a Dan Wells. And Passengers by John Mars, I'd only read 1 book from. Evelyn Hugo, I've read a bunch of 3 Taylor Jenkins Reid books, and Stephen King, obviously, I've read a lot. So this did not go the way I expected, because my least favorite book from Stacey was Evelyn Hugo, and my least favorite from Jake was Stephen King, which those were my 5-star predictions. Yeah. So that goes to show you never know. So any surprises on how I felt about books?
I don't really think I had surprises about how you felt about my picks.
Well, Firestarter. 3 stars.
3 stars. Yeah, it's on the bottom half of my Stephen King ranking.
It's one of my all-time favorites.
I know. That's like, because I watched your Stephen King ranking video before, when I found out you were picking a Stephen King book for me, because I wanted to try to guess which book you were going to pick. And Firestarter was up there, which is why I like thought it was in my like top 3 Stephen King choices for what you would pick. But you picked wrong, my friend. You picked wrong.
I was this close to picking different seasons too.
Yeah, I think if you'd picked different seasons, or if you'd picked Revival, because those were 2 I was thinking about, I think you might have had a better shot, because it was close. Yeah. It was close. I mean, beforehand you were like 0.25 off, but if you'd managed to get a 5-star, you would have won. Yeah.
I'm surprised you have any 5 stars from either.
I am too. I don't know if it was. Maybe I was trying to be hypercritical because I knew this was a competition. If I just read one of these on a whim, I might have given I'm Not a Serial Killer 5 stars. I might have given Ogres 5 stars. I might have given Passengers 5 stars, and I may still yet. I very rarely get into like the minutia of like 0.25s on my rankings and ratings, but I did for this because I wanted to give an accurate representation of like which ones I enjoyed more, which ones I enjoyed less. So, in hindsight, that might have done more damage than good to your scores. But still, I mean,
you had a good time reading it.
I did.
Our favorites, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Firestarter was a 3. It was not a 3.25. It was a 3. So
great.
So lesson learned. But yeah, that's it. That's the score. So Stacey, you win. You're getting another book from me. So you get 3. You get 3 books from me because you won my giveaway for the two with the book giveaway, and now you get 1 from your wish list. So
yeah. I might have to replenish my wish list for you. I don't think I've checked it since my birthday.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, well, I will take a look-see over there, and who knows, Jake, I might wander over to yours as well. So I very much appreciate y'all doing this for me. I had a lot of fun. I will say I did much better with this than I have in the past with TBR selections, because Fina has picked 3 books for me to read before off of my TBR, and that took me like 2 months. And I did like a 12 books picked by 12 booktubers challenge a couple years ago, and I only read like 4 of those. Yeah, but I read all 6 of these in like 3 weeks. So thanks to the Battle of the Bands readathon there, because it
Yeah.
definitely. I was very glad that I was able to fit all of these in to prompts. It was close. I thought I might have to save one for one of the encore prompts, but I didn't. So, and they were mostly short too. That's the other thing. Firestarter was the longest. I felt it. Well, put this in perspective for you. Firestarter was like 14 hours, and Evelyn Hugo was like 12 and a half hours. It took me 2.5 to 3 days to listen to Firestarter, and it took me like 12 hours to listen to Evelyn Hugo. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really thought I was going to like it. I had high hopes.
Should have picked different seasons.
Should have picked different seasons. There you go. It's official. So, all right. Well, that's it for this video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Definitely go subscribe to Jake and Stacey. They're the best. And yeah, I'll hopefully do this kind of thing again. I might have them back for it. They did a pretty good job. No 5 stars, but I enjoyed 5/6 of what I read. So,
5/6.
5/6. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.